All right, XRP family, XRP army, and how's everyone doing today? Welcome back to Journey to XRP, your daily dose of truth, clarity, and conviction in the world of crypto. Every single day, we dive deep into XRP, not just to stay updated, but to help you make smarter moves, earn better profits, and stay ahead of the curve. Because let's be real, the crypto world never sleeps. And if you blink, you could miss the moment that changes everything. And right now, we are standing at the edge of one of those moments. Something massive is unfolding, and it's happening in less than 12 hours. What's about to go down could directly influence the short-term direction of XRP and the entire crypto market. Now, before we get into the details, let's address the big question everyone's been asking. Why is XRP down right now? We've seen Ripple making huge strategic moves. We've seen new partnerships, regulatory progress, and community strength, yet the price is holding back. The reason isn't about fundamentals or confidence. What's happening right now is macro pressure, a global scale event that's temporarily holding the market in suspense. And that event is none other than the upcoming summit between President Trump and President Xi of China. This isn't just another political headline. This is economic chess at the highest level. The world's two biggest powers are sitting down in South Korea to discuss trade, technology, energy, and global financial alignment. And believe it or not, crypto, and especially XRP, sits right at the center of that global shift. Because when big nations talk money, trade, and flow of capital, that conversation always circles back to liquidity. And liquidity is what XRP was built for. So here's where it gets really interesting. That meeting between Trump and Xi, it's happening tomorrow morning. South Korea time, which means it's actually tonight for most of us in the West. South Korea is about 11 hours ahead of New York. So when we're winding down for the night around 9 p.m. to midnight Eastern time, that's when the discussion begins. And whatever is said in that room, whether it's progress or tension, will ripple across global markets before sunrise. Now, take a look at the charts right now. The crypto market's in the red, XRP's sliding a bit, and everyone's cautious. But this isn't fear. This is hesitation. The big players, hedge funds, institutional traders, even whales are waiting for clarity because clarity equals confidence, and confidence equals movement. The market is pausing, not crashing. It's holding its breath before the news drops. And here's the key takeaway. This is temporary. This dip, this bearish pressure you're seeing, it's short-term noise before the signal. Once this meeting wraps up, once we get that final confirmation of stability or progress, you could see the crypto market, and XRP in particular, surge with renewed strength. Think of it like the final checkpoint before liftoff. So as we move forward, keep your focus steady. We're going to break down what's actually on the table in this summit, why it's causing short-term market tension, and how the outcome could reshape the momentum for XRP heading into the next phase of the bull run. Because if you've ever wondered how global politics, trade deals, and crypto are all tied together, this is the moment to see it clearly. Buckle up, because the next 12 hours could set the tone for the next 12 months in the XRP journey. Let's set the stage clearly, because context is everything. Over the past week, global markets, not just crypto, have been walking on eggshells. Every major asset class, from tech stocks to commodities, has been feeling the same wave of uncertainty. And at the heart of it all sits this one major geopolitical meeting, the Trump-China summit happening in South Korea. Now, for those who may not know why this particular event is shaking things up, here's the quick rundown. The US and China aren't just two countries talking trade. They are the engines that drive global finance. When they agree, markets breathe. When they clash, volatility explodes, and crypto is always first to feel it. In this case, the tension has been brewing for weeks. Behind the scenes, the conversation isn't just about tariffs or import taxes. It's about technology controls, supply chains, and rare earth minerals, which are critical for everything from smartphones to blockchain servers. China controls nearly 44% of the world's rare earth supply, and these materials are essential for semiconductors, the chips that power crypto mining rigs, exchanges, and even Ripple's infrastructure partners. That's why this meeting isn't just political theater. It's a trigger point that affects how the financial system, including the crypto space, operates on a fundamental level. Now, both sides have been dropping hints. The US has been signaling openness to lifting certain tariffs and finalizing the TikTok deal, while China has quietly increased purchases of US soybeans and hinted at easing export restrictions. On the surface, these may sound like trade headlines, but deeper down, it's about who controls the flow of global liquidity. And that's exactly where XRP comes into the picture. XRP is built to be the bridge asset that connects global value movement east to west, dollar to yuan, euro to yen. When liquidity gets freed up on a global scale, it gives assets like XRP a massive runway to perform. So when people ask, why does XRP care about a political summit? That's the reason if the US and China find middle ground capital starts moving freely again, institutional confidence returns, risk assets like crypto start getting inflows. That's when XRP shines, because it thrives in a liquid, high-volume environment. The irony is that even though Ripple and XRP are fundamentally strong partnerships, infrastructure regulation progress, macro fear can still suppress price action temporarily. It's not about the asset, it's about the atmosphere around it. Let's also not forget that Ripple itself is moving strategically in this environment with major acquisitions, treasury partnerships, and increasing involvement with financial institutions. Ripple isn't sitting idle waiting for the market to recover. It's building the future rails of finance. So while traders might be stressing about short-term red candles, Ripple is out there quietly setting up the long-term framework that XRP will eventually run on. And that's where the confidence comes from, the understanding that what's being built is far bigger than any 1 week's price movement. Now, in the next part, we'll go deeper into how exactly this meeting could impact XRP's trajectory, not just emotionally or psychologically, but structurally. We'll explore how global policy decisions, even those that seem far removed from crypto, can set off chain reactions that reshape liquidity, demand, and adoption. Because in crypto, especially with XRP, macro events are not distractions. They're catalysts, and right now we're standing right before one. Now that we've laid the groundwork, let's break down why this single event, the Trump-China summit, is such a pivotal moment for XRP and the broader crypto market. You see, markets are emotional creatures. They don't move only on charts or data. They move on expectation, perception, and confidence. Right now, we're in a phase of hesitation, not because something is broken, but because everyone is waiting for clarity. Once that clarity hits, money flows where it's treated best. And that's often straight into high liquidity digital assets like XRP. So what exactly is at stake in this meeting? Behind closed doors, the topics being discussed, tariffs, trade, restrictions, semiconductor exports, and rare earth materials all tie back to one fundamental issue: control of global capital flow. When these two nations agree, supply chains stabilize, investor sentiment rebounds, and institutions start reallocating funds from defensive assets like bonds or cash into risk assets like crypto. That's the moment XRP and Bitcoin start to move. The reason is simple: liquidity loves certainty. Once traders and investors sense that global relations are improving, the flow of money into high-potential markets skyrockets. Now let's connect this directly to XRP's ecosystem. Ripple's vision has always been about on-demand liquidity, helping financial institutions move value across borders efficiently. For XRP to perform at its best, it needs a world that's open to cross-border trade and cooperation, not one divided by economic friction. So when global talks lean toward peace and progress, that environment indirectly supercharges XRP's purpose. Think of it like this: when nations trade freely, banks need faster settlement. When banks need faster settlement, they turn to Ripplet and XRP. It's all connected. But there's another layer here that most people overlook: timing. The crypto market has been consolidating for months, quietly absorbing news, regulations, and innovation. We're entering a zone where large players, institutions, funds, and even governments are positioning themselves before the next major leg up. If this summit brings a positive outcome, it could trigger a domino effect: improved trade confidence, increased liquidity, renewed investor optimism, capital rotation into crypto. It wouldn't be the first time either. Historically, every major geopolitical cooldown has resulted in an upswing in speculative assets, and XRP, being one of the top global utility tokens, stands right at the forefront of that move. Let's also address the psychology side. Many retail traders are feeling anxious seeing the market in red, wondering why XRP isn't surging despite good news. But remember, markets often move opposite of emotion. Smart money accumulates during uncertainty and takes profits when everyone else is euphoric. What we're witnessing right now is accumulation disguised as fear, the same pattern we saw in previous cycles. Hesitation, dip, disbelief, and then boom, breakout. When you zoom out, you start to realize that these short-term pullbacks often precede the biggest moves. So in essence, this 12-hour countdown isn't just about politics. It's about positioning. It's about being on the right side of history when clarity hits. Whether the outcome of this meeting is a breakthrough or simply a step forward, it will set the tone for the market's next phase. And XRP, with its strong fundamentals, government connections, and global payment infrastructure, is one of the few assets built to thrive in that kind of macro stability. In the next part, we'll explore what these developments could mean for XRP holders specifically, how investors, traders, and even institutions might react once the summit concludes, and what ripple effects, pun intended, could carry through the entire crypto ecosystem in the days that follow. Because make no mistake, once the fog clears, the real moves begin. Let's talk about what this really means for XRP holders, investors, and the overall crypto community. Because the next 12 to 24 hours could create a ripple effect far beyond this single meeting. Right now, the global market is sitting at a crossroads. If the Trump-China summit ends positively with even a few bullet points of mutual agreement, it could immediately translate into a surge in market confidence. Investors love stability. And when global superpowers shake hands instead of pointing fingers, money starts flowing again. That's when you see risk assets, crypto tech stocks, commodities begin to rise in unison. For XRP specifically, the implications are massive. A smooth relationship between the US and China could mean renewed optimism around international finance, liquidity corridors, and institutional adoption, all areas that Ripple has been strategically building toward. Ripple's long-term goal isn't just to make XRP a popular coin, it's to make it the standard for cross-border settlements. When world economies cooperate, that system thrives. Think about it. If trade routes reopen and capital flows become smoother, the demand for fast, cheap, and transparent settlement systems skyrockets. That's literally what XRP was designed to solve. And there's more. The political angle here could also bring XRP closer to the regulatory clarity it's been waiting for. Positive outcomes from these global meetings tend to soften the tone of regulators worldwide. The US, Europe, and Asia are all watching how major economies handle the digital asset conversation. If the narrative shifts toward economic cooperation through innovation, you better believe that digital assets like XRP, which already align with compliance and utility, will take the spotlight. It's not unrealistic to think that the aftermath of this summit could accelerate institutional trust in XRP. Banks, remittance companies, and treasury platforms could see this as a green light to move forward faster. But let's flip the coin for a second. What if things don't go smoothly? What if the meeting ends without a clear resolution? In that case, the short-term market reaction could be more hesitation, maybe a temporary dip, maybe sideways movement. But even then, it's crucial to remember that macro uncertainty doesn't kill innovation. Ripple's partnerships, the continued global adoption of the XRP ledger, and the strategic integration into financial rails, all of that continues regardless of politics. In other words, the fundamentals remain rock solid, and once the dust settles, XRP will still be here, moving forward while the market catches up. From a broader perspective, events like these remind us how intertwined crypto has become with global finance. A few years ago, a trade meeting between two world leaders might not have meant much for digital assets, but now a single headline can swing billions in liquidity, because digital assets have become part of the global conversation. That's progress. And XRP is at the heart of that transformation. It's not just another coin-chasing hype, it's an infrastructure layer being integrated into the next evolution of money movement. For holders and investors, the key takeaway is patience and perspective. This is not the time to panic over every red candle or Twitter rumor. This is the time to watch, learn, and prepare, because the market's reaction to this summit could set the tone for the rest of the year. If we see even a small wave of optimism, that could be the spark for the next bull phase. And XRP, being one of the most utility-driven assets in crypto, stands ready to lead it. So whether you're holding a little or a lot, remember this: XRP's story isn't written in a day. It's written through moments like these where uncertainty tests conviction and conviction shapes success. And if history repeats itself, which it often does, the smart money will look back at this moment, not with fear, but with gratitude that they held through the noise. Now let's dig deeper into the underlying psychology and mechanics behind what's happening right now, because it's easy to get distracted by headlines and forget how markets truly move. When you see XRP, Bitcoin, or even Ethereum trending down before a major event, it's not a coincidence. It's positioning. Big money doesn't wait for certainty. It moves before the rest of the crowd even realizes what's happening. What we're seeing at this stage is a classic pre-event shakeout designed to push weak hands out of the market before volatility kicks in. Here's how it works. Institutions and large investors reduce their risk exposure before key macro events. In this case, the Trump-China summit, because they don't want to be caught off guard by sudden headlines. That selling pressure causes a dip across the board. Retail investors seeing the red candles panic sell, thinking the worst is coming. Meanwhile, smart money accumulates quietly during those same dips. This is how markets redistribute wealth through fear and timing. And when the uncertainty clears, the very people who sold out are left watching from the sidelines as prices climb back up. From a macroeconomic perspective, XRP's lack of immediate reaction to positive developments like North's $1 billion acquisition or Ripple's ongoing partnerships shouldn't be seen as weakness. Instead, it's evidence that macro sentiment is temporarily overpowering micro fundamentals. In simple terms, the world is watching politics right now, not protocols. But once the political air clears, attention swings back to fundamentals. And that's where XRP shines brightest. Remember, this is an asset that has real-world use cases, regulatory traction, and institutional interest. Unlike most speculative coins, it's built for endurance, not hype cycles. Let's connect this to liquidity, the heartbeat of XRP. Ripple's business model depends on liquidity corridors, connecting fiat currencies through XRP as a bridge. When geopolitical stability returns, cross-border transactions rise, institutional players become more confident, and the need for efficient settlement grows. This naturally drives more utility-based demand for XRP. So, ironically, the very event that's pushing the market down right now is laying the groundwork for a powerful rebound once the fear subsides. It's like the tide pulling back before a massive wave hits the shore. There's also a broader strategic angle to consider here. Ripple's alignment with global institutions, treasury systems, payment networks, and even political figures isn't random. It's calculated positioning. The rumor that Ripple's leadership could soon join government advisory boards or policy committees isn't just good PR. It's proof that XRP is being woven into the future of digital finance governance. And when those connections solidify, it becomes nearly impossible to ignore XRP's role in the next phase of the financial system. For investors, this means one thing: discipline. The ones who win in markets like this are not the loudest, but the most patient. They understand that price action is temporary, but positioning is permanent. When you hold an asset that's part of a massive structural shift like XRP's integration into global payments, you're not speculating. You're aligning yourself with the next infrastructure layer of finance. In short, what's happening right now isn't a signal of weakness. It's the calm before the real momentum builds. Once this meeting concludes and markets stabilize, we're likely to see capital rotation back into crypto as investors re-enter the market with renewed confidence. And when that happens, XRP won't need hype to move. It'll have the fundamentals, the partnerships, and the macro tailwinds all pushing in the same direction. In the next and final part, we'll wrap this all together. What this means for XRP in the immediate aftermath of the summit, what scenarios could unfold, and how long-term holders should think about the coming weeks. Because if this pattern holds true, we might just be looking at the final consolidation before the next big XRP breakout. At this point, let's take a deep breath and look at the big picture. What we're witnessing right now isn't just another piece of market noise. It's history in motion. Every few years, there's a moment when global politics, economics, and technology all converge. This week's Trump-China summit is one of those moments. The world's two largest economies are sitting down to negotiate the future of trade, technology, and finance. And whether people realize it or not, digital assets like XRP are sitting quietly in the background, ready to benefit once the dust settles. Now, if you're part of the XRP family, this is the time to stay grounded. We've seen these kinds of moments before: uncertainty, hesitation, fear, and then a surge of clarity. What separates the winners from the crowd isn't luck, it's conviction. It's the belief that even in the red days, something bigger is being built. Ripple isn't slowing down, it's expanding, acquiring, partnering, and preparing. And when institutions move at this scale, they're not thinking about the next 24 hours. They're thinking about the next decade. This is where your mindset matters more than your portfolio. In crypto, patience isn't just a virtue, it's a weapon. The impatient sell into fear. The patient build through it. And while the impatient check prices every hour, the patient are quietly stacking, learning, and preparing for the next cycle. You don't have to predict every market move. You just have to survive long enough to ride the next wave. Because when the noise fades, it's always those who stayed calm that end up reaping the rewards. If this meeting ends well, if we get a wave of positive headlines and renewed optimism, the market could start to turn faster than anyone expects. Confidence breeds momentum, and momentum breeds opportunity. But even if it doesn't go perfectly, remember this. Temporary fear doesn't erase long-term fundamentals. The XRP ledger is still operational. Ripple is still expanding. And global adoption is still unfolding step by step. A red week doesn't destroy a revolution. So here's your reminder. Zoom out. Don't let the next 12 hours define your vision. Focus on what's being built beneath the surface. A new financial system that runs faster, cheaper, and smarter. And when that system finally goes mainstream, you'll be glad you were paying attention now when most weren't. To everyone watching this, keep your focus sharp and your emotions steady. The market rewards clarity and punishes panic. Whether you hold 10 XRP or 10,000, you're part of a global movement that's rewriting how money moves across borders. That's not something to take lightly. That's something to be proud of. So, as always, stay patient, stay focused, and stay smart. The next few days might bring volatility, but volatility is just the price of admission for greatness. And when the green candles return, and they will, you'll know that the wait was worth it. Stay strong, XRP family. This is just the beginning of the next chapter.